Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode of the Nomad Cast featuring the Adidas Conductor High Top New York edition. Boy, this is going to be a great episode. Stay tuned, stay locked. I'll be back with that Adidas story after the break. Now, to understand the Adidas Conductor High Top, let's dive back into 1986. The Adidas Conductor debuted in 1986 and was worn by New York Knicks legend Patrick Ewing. Along with the Rivalry High Top and the Rivalry Low Top, the Adidas Conductor was launched as the Patrick Ewing collection. Now let's fast forward to 2023. Adidas released the New York Pack to include the high top Adidas Conductor and a pair of low top Adidas Rivalries. Now that we have a better understanding of the Adidas Conductor and how relevant it was way back in 1986, let's point out some features in the 2023 version. All right, let's take a deep dive into the 2023 version of the Adidas Conductor High Top New York edition. Now, let's transverse to the tongue. Now, notice this tongue right here. Look at the badging. Got the NY right here and the stitching going along the sides and the bottom and the top. Now, you may look at this and say, hey, that's different from the rigid conductors. Now, you look at the tongue badging in 1986 on the Adidas Conductor. It had the Ewing logo, the Ewing collection. And then when Patrick Ewing left, they transitioned it to the Adidas badging on the tongue. All right, let's traverse from the top of the tongue down to the tongue throat. As you can see, it's the leather, very comfortable, very soft leather. Now, let's look at the outside of the Conductor. One of the highlights here is that NY badging. All you New York folks, you definitely love this. The New York badging right here on the side of the heel. On the side panel, the traditional 3 stripes of Adidas. But the material here is a little different. It's almost like a suede, if you will. Maybe a little velvet somewhere in there. Look at the leather uppers. Look at that. That's old school right there. It's almost like a distressed leather upper. Got the traditional lacing, the lacing holes right here. Now, let's look at this toe box right here. Look at that. Perforated toe box right here. And this material is almost like a suede, if you will. Old school toe box right here. Remember, if you've seen any of my videos, you know, please place a sock inside of that toe box so you can decrease the crease. Let's traverse inside of the Conductor High 2023. Again, Adidas striping, a side panel, but look at that Dillinger web. Now, we're familiar with the Dillinger web because the Adidas forms have the Dillinger web right up in there. Look at that rubber on the outside, different colors, blue and white. And look at that bottom, ladies and gentlemen. That's old school, baby. 1986, old school right there. The Adidas Conductor, one of the best silhouettes that they came out with in 1986. Like I stated, worn by Patrick Ewing. As an Adidas fan, I love this freaking version. Oh, I almost forgot. The inside, look at that. I'm gonna try to pull this tongue out. You can't really see it too well, but I want to point it out. It has the NY inscription along the inside right there. Rotate ourselves to the back. Look at that. Old school right there, man. Now remember, the old school Conductor had the Adidas logo back up in there, as you can see here in this picture. But man, I tell you, the Adidas Conductor, one of the best looking Adidas silhouettes of the 1980s. I am a sucker for old school 1980s era Adidas. Freaking love this model. And shout out to Mrs. Anderson for purchasing these Adidas Conductors for Father's Day. She knows I love old school Adidas. Thank you, babe. Then you look at the badging down here, got the Adidas right at the bottom of the heel. Look at that, man. This is old school, baby. Old school. All right, let's talk about some nostalgic memories. Now, I don't have a nostalgic memory with this particular trim right here because it just came out. But if I want to take it back to 1986 with the old school colorway that you can see here in the New York Knicks colors, let me tell you, that was the epitome of Adidas basketball in the mid 1980s. Patrick Ewing was my favorite player, rocking the Conductors, the Rivalries, the high top and low, and even the Adidas Attitude was part of that Ewing collection as well. I'm telling you, man, that is old school. When I think about that, I think about the old school cats from back in the neighborhoods, wearing the Adidas tracksuits with Adidas hats, rocking freaking Patrick Ewings, man. I'm telling you, that was what a time to be alive in the 1980s with these big, bulky sneakers. But they were cold, man. It was freaking cold. I love to hear your story about old school Adidas and how it impacted the way you buy sneakers, the way you rock sneakers. Because I'm telling you, man, it was a different time back then as it related to sneakers. In Detroit, we called them gym shoes. But it was an impeccable time. It was a fabulous time. And it was a dangerous time to be wearing old school Adidas back in those days. Those OGs, you already know what it was like wearing a pair of Adidas back in the mid 80s, whether you was from New York, Detroit, Chicago, DC, Baltimore, wherever. You definitely understand. My overall summary on the Adidas Conductor New York edition, I like how they kind of paid homage to the New York Giants, the New York Rangers, and the New York Islanders. I miss the old school color with the blue and orange, reminiscent of the knit color. So if I had to tell Adidas anything about it, if they brought me into a room and they said, hey, Mr. Anderson, how can we improve this? First thing I would tell you is bring back the old school colorway from 1986. And you know what? They even had an Olympic version for the Seoul Olympics in 1988, as you can see here. Adidas, you did a fabulous job. You improved the materials. You modernized the materials. You made them functional. However, please bring back the 1986 version. Please bring back that colorway, that blue and orange, that New York Knicks. Got me feeling like I'm Patrick Ewing again. Hey, appreciate you guys tuning in today on this episode of the Nomad Cast, where we talked about the Adidas Conductor High Top 2023 New York edition. If you enjoyed this episode, if you found any value with this episode, and if you learned anything from this episode, consider liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, doing all those things. It definitely helps the Nomad Cast. Hey, you can also follow me on all my social media. I'm on TikTok, and of course I'm on YouTube. Stay tuned, stay locked. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. Until we meet again, the Nomad Cast, where story time is a pastime. Patrick Ewing's Conductors, high top, old school baby with a new school twist. Love it.